Sorry for saying.
This meeting is being recorded.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishtaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swam Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachaline Nivasesha Sunyavari Pashtatara Satarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, 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 Hare. So welcome everyone again. Now we can record the welcomes. Hare Krishna. Whatever devotees with us, thank you so much for joining us in our monthly discussion on Sankalpa-Kaumudi. And we're on page, for those who have the book, 470. And where's the chapter 25, attentive and inattentive sadhana. Very interesting subject, helping us to be attentive in our sadhana. Yeah. The more attentive we are, then simply the more we can make advancement in our devotional service. All right, so page 470. All right, let's start reading, I guess. So
Are we gonna read from where, Holy Prabhu?
yeah, I'm just let's just
But elsewhere, Srila Prabhupada comments on this verse.
okay, go on, you can start reading from there.
Okay, elsewhere, Srila Prabhupada comments on the same verse. The purport is that if it is possible, one should go and physically be present in Rajabhumi, Vrindavan, and be engaged always in the service of the Lord, following the devotees in Rajdam, the spiritual realm of Braj. If it is not possible, however, to be physically present at Vrindavan, one can meditate anywhere upon living in that situation. Wherever he may be, one must always think about the life in Rajdam and about following in the footsteps of a particular devotee in the service of the Lord.
Yeah, just to give you a context of where we're picking up, Maharaj here is speaking, quoting from the Sastra, which describes the importance of being attentive. So in that regard, we should choose a place or circumstance which is most suitable for being attentive. And that's why it's recommended that devotees live in the holy Dham, because in that place, in that atmosphere, it's easier to be attentive. But circumstantially, one may not be able to live in the holy Dham. Therefore, it's recommended that one should mentally live there. Yeah. That's the idea. That's the context as far as I understand. Yeah. Yeah, let's read on. It'll become more apparent to us, the subject.
In these quotations, we see that to practice spontaneous devotion, the dominant constant is attentive meditation on the service to Krishna, and the supporting variant is living in Raj, either directly or indirectly. This conclusion is strongly emphasized by Rupa Goswami, Kiva Goswami, and Vishwanath Chakravarti. In the summary, attentiveness is key to Sankalpa. Moving from Brahma Sutra to its commentary, Srimad Bhagavatam, we see the same principle explicitly conveyed. After Nrsimhadev killed Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad Maharaj approached the angry Lord to pacify him. By Nrsimhadev's kindly touch, the boy attained a transcendental nature, and in that perfected stage, he prepared himself to offer prayers. In other words, Prahlad made the sankalpa to pray. What preparation was relevant to such a determination? Prahlad Maharaj fixed his mind and sight upon Lord Nrsimhadev with full attention in complete trance. With a fixed mind, he began to offer prayers in love with a faltering voice. The answer to our question is quite clear. Prahlad did only one thing, and that was to steady his mind and senses by fixing them on the Lord. With such single-pointed attentiveness, he then began to offer prayers that are reversed by all Vaishnavas today. Again, through the conduct of Prahlad Maharaj, we see how attentiveness is a primary constituent of a successful Sankalpa. Finally, let us see Krishna's instruction on the subject. While teaching Uddhav the science of Bhakti Yoga, the Lord prefaces his description of his appearance as the Hamsa Avatar thus. A person should be attentive and grave and never lazy or morose. Mastering the yoga procedures of breathing and sitting properly, one should practice fixing the mind on me at dawn, noon, and sunset, and thus gradually the mind should be completely absorbed in me. The actual yoga system, as taught by my devotee, headed by Sanat Kumar, is simply this. Having withdrawn the mind from all other objects, one should directly and appropriately absorb it in me. Krishna's definition and summary of yoga is simple. Absorb the mind in me. From the highest authority, we again hear that the step-by-step process to transcendence has attentiveness as its essence. The Lord, Acharyas, and the scriptures make this abundantly clear.
Okay, so just comments or questions on that. So I have mentioned this before, but we are yogis. Okay, you're all yogis, bhakti yogis. Yeah. So just as it's incompetent, it's required from a yogi to control their minds and to be attentive to their practice. So that also applies to us as bhakti yogis. But we have the pleasure, or we have the benefits, or we have the great fortune of actually having something very wonderful and very beautiful to meditate upon. That's Krishna and Krishna's pastimes. But to be successful in that meditation and to get the results of it, we have to work. We have to do the work and learn to become more attentive. See, this is the idea, is as we're chanting 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years or more, we should have the ability to go more deeper and to be more attentive to our bhajan, to our rounds, for example. So this is why Maharaj is making this clear as on the screen. He mentions it's not just him, it's the acharyas, the law of the acharyas in the scripture. And making this is an important skill or an important habit to have, is being attentive. And it's a challenge today because generally we're trained to be inattentive. Okay.
So can I ask something?
Yes.
So when we chant, we should listen the holy name of the Lord, and in the same time meditate upon his lotus feet, and going from the lotus feet, seeing his form, or
Well, the general practice is to first meditate upon the mantra first, not just first, but just worry about, for a general answer to that, we want to concentrate on this sound vibration of the holy name. Yeah. And there's other stages that come as a consequence of that, but we shouldn't artificially try and run fast or try and go too forward before we've gained the ability just to hear the holy name. So we just want to be able to sit down and be able to hear the holy name for at least 2 hours. So we can practice that. And then other stages will come as a natural consequence of that. But for us, this is what we want to try and do. Yeah, concentrate on the sound of the holy name, which is non-different from Krishna's form, pastimes, etc. And that will manifest according to our purity of heart in due course of time. All right. Anything else than that? Was that okay, Modern Mongol? Prove something.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Here I was thinking of Prahlad Maharaj was lucky because Lord Nrsimhadev touched his head with his hand, so he got this transcendental knowledge how to pray, how to,
Yeah. So
like everything cleared up, but for us, what,
yeah, I mean that's true. Sometimes it's that kind of logic, if you want, is given about Bhagavad Gita, that Arjuna was very fortunate because Krishna was there. But let's take the essence of that. Yes, no doubt Prahlad was blessed, but let's look at the mood and how he was praising the Lord. He was doing it with attention. So let us do the same thing. Let us learn to do the same thing with a fixed mind and with attention. We'll describe here with full attention and in complete trance. Okay, we need adhikar to enter into trance.
Yes.
But how are we going to get it unless we practice it?
Yeah.
We're not going to get it if we don't really try. So it's good to, so just as a point, it's good, like for instance, deity greetings, Govindam, Hari Purusham. You can think about anything you want at that time. And I guess sometimes we do, all types of things are going. But at least, for example, at that time, we can be actually meditating upon the words. Venam Kanantam Aravindaya Daksham. Meditate upon the meanings of the words and try to enter into it. Make an effort. Don't just, sometimes we may wait there for Krishna to do his magic on us, but rather we go towards Krishna and we kind of, we should be gazing at the deity as if we're drinking his beauty, looking from his lotus feet, as Mother Manga said, and looking up and meditating, Vayanam, wearing a peacock feather and lotus eyes, enter into a meditation. And that will please Krishna. Yes, please, ma'am.
I said normally we sort of just sing, sake of sing. I mean, because it, we just see the deities look so gorgeous, and we just sing it. So, but what you say, it's really good. Like, we just have to think when we're singing. The point, which is really good.
Have a look at the translation of those two verses and become familiar with the word to word as much as we can. Some words are obvious. Vainam, it's a flute.
Yes.
That becomes some, especially if we're regularly taking part in deity greeting at the temple. Same as singing Jai Radha Madhava. There's so much there. Also Tulsi Puja as well. That's often one where devotees may not be so aware of what we're singing, but that's very esoterical. That's like a prayer for Manjari Pav, to be a follower of the cowherd girls and the cowherd girls of Raj. That's a quite very esoteric. So that's what Prabhupada has given us. So this skill of being attentive to that can be very beneficial for our devotional development. Yeah. And it can be the difference between night and day, if you're really paying attention to our prayers that we've been given by Prabhupada, the experience can be quite profound if we're actually endeavoring to enter into it. Also, we could go on these samsara prayers as well. Some of you might chant these at home. Guru Vandana. Yes, someone was saying something. I think I just.
Yeah, Prabhu, I was just thinking. Before, I was thinking we we are we are very fortunate because of we got the easy way chanting Harinam.
Yeah, in comparison to the yogis who have an impersonal meditation. Yes.
Yeah, we got the Harinam. Oh, of course, there's the things Srila Prahlad Maharaj did, and Arjuna has to go through. We don't. We can't. We are never qualified. We will never. We don't have any adhikar, but still we got this mercy from Srila Prabhupada. So I think if we are very serious, if we can become very attentive chanters, we
Yeah.
more.
Prabhupada has, Prabhupada has, there's a verse that describes the acharyas that they use a boat to cross over the ocean, but they leave the boat on the shore. So Prabhupada has given us so much grace and mercy. Yeah, so we should appreciate that. Yes, yes. Thank you for that. Yeah. Anything else in this? Otherwise, we can read on a little bit more.
Can I add something more? Sorry,
Yes,
I am
please.
always jumping in.
Yes.
Is it correct when we meditate on Krishna, let's say in the morning? I don't want to speculate or just to imagine, but can we imagine in a way? Because if we read Srimad Bhagavatam, we know, or we try to learn the pastimes and try to see them, like, because in the morning you dress the deities, you wake them up. Is it correct to imagine that state and how you, I don't know, serve them and help them and go through those stages in a day, because they have different moods on different times of the day, and they will appear differently for the eye, if I can say like that.
Yeah. Well, just talking about Astakaliya Leela, which is generally practiced at advanced stages of Krishna consciousness. But having said that, I mean, we can, because we're serving the Lord, we may be dressing the deities. So at least we should, definitely not as a participant. Let's be very clear on that.
Yeah, not participant.
To participate in such pastimes. But we should especially if we've been practicing a number of years, we should become familiar to some degree with Krishna's pastimes. And so, for instance, we may read a little bit about Krishna's pastimes in the morning and how he's being dressed, and Radharani, she's being, being dressed, etc., and served. So we may read that to help us to become absorbed in our service. But please keep in mind, we are not participants. We are only
not participants, but to be happy,
only
to be
observers.
happy. Yeah, but to be happy by what is happening and how it is, not that you take part in it, but it's like just being grateful in a way of seeing the stages of a day, how they go through.
Yeah, and there's books which describe Krishna's different pastimes throughout the day. Yeah, so that's what we're supposed to do. That's called Krishna consciousness. And the more we advance and the more we become purified in the heart, and the more that will become a pleasurable and natural thing for us to do. But sometimes we will be successful in a perhaps unsteady stage, and sometimes we will be able to remember Krishna. Sometimes, Krishna, if we can't control Krishna as well. But yes, but the general principle, that's what it means to be Krishna conscious. I was just reading today in one book, this book here, this one, that one should take Lord Chaitanya within the heart and then remember Krishna's pastimes. Another interesting detail. But yes, that is a meditation for Vaishnavas, according to their accomplishment, to meditate upon Krishna's Astakali Leela, Krishna's pastimes throughout the day. So that's something to develop. That's something that we want to aspire for.
Thank you for clarifying.
Those things will come naturally.
Yeah, I was just going to ask
those
that.
things will come naturally if one is really sincere in their devotional practice and trying their best, then when they become free from material bondage and they receive the blessings of their efforts in sadhana, those things will come naturally at the stage of bhava. Yeah, or there's another process where one actually practices that before one reaches the stage of bhava. But either way, that's what it means to be conscious of Krishna. Yeah. Yeah, like in the morning, 7 o'clock, when we're at deity greeting, what is Krishna doing? Or we could say, I'm not exactly what time Krishna leaves in the morning to herd the cows. I mean, I can find out. I've got it here. I can't recall right now. But generally, sometimes I try and do that, and I'm not always successful. When I'm doing deity greeting, I'm fanning the Lord, and I'm trying to. Oh, I hear the conch on the other side of the curtain. I try sometimes to remember. Oh, Krishna's now coming. Krishna's now coming. He's been a mother. Now that he's going to with the cows, and Mother Yasoda is very anxious that Krishna's gonna, go to the forest, and all the demons and all these friends are very excited. So that's why it's good to read about Krishna and read about Krishna's pastimes. Then you can do this thing. Okay, it may not be out of spontaneous attraction. It may be because we've heard that that's a good thing to do. So, oh, that's a good thing to do. So let me do that. Yes, Hare Krishna. Any other questions?
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
I got these timings, but I can never remember it. Like dawn is 3:36 to 6, and morning is 6 to 8. But I cannot. I mean, I read it, but I cannot remember.
Yeah, I've got it on my calendar, so it comes up.
Oh,
It's on my calendar on my phone. So at that time in the day, it comes up on my phone. Sometimes I
you
forget.
can send us the calendar. Maybe you can send us the calendar.
I can share the calendar if you want.
Please.
And it
Please.
comes up and it tells you what's going on at that time on my calendar. But I must admit, I don't because it's been there for about 2 or 3 years now. And sometimes it comes up and I don't, I forget to look. Conditioned soul.
But like you say, practice and it will come.
Yeah. We can, that's what.
From last week, the word attentive is in my head. So everything I'm trying to do, hear or read or something, I say, word attentive.
Yeah, that's a wonderful result. That's what Maharaj is trying
From
to
last week,
achieve.
what we discussed. That's why.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else? Or we can read a little bit more. We see Purnamai had a hand up there, and then we can. Next, we have Kumara Priya can read next, but first, Purnamai, you can pick it up
Thank
from 472 under the 4 asterisks.
Let us now look at attentiveness in sadhana bhakti from a different perspective, one that we find acharyas like Thakur Bhaktivinoda employ to emphasize the importance of the subject. This approach is to study the opposite of attentiveness, which is inattentiveness. When sincere devotees see the spiritual devastation that inattentiveness causes, they take seriously the importance of attention in their services, especially in the japa of the holy name. The question devotee asks is, what is inattentiveness in sadhana bhakti and what are its consequences? In summary, inattentiveness means to be distracted from the practice and the purpose of one's bhajan. Its ramifications are a variety of offenses to the holy name. As short as the answer above, that lengthy an explanation we offer below, and we begin with our commentary on inattentiveness by studying the Sanskrit synonyms for the word. Bhaktivedanta Thakur used the word pramada for inattention, which is commonly used in Sanskrit
To denote.
She's gone She's muted.
No, she's still there. Kurunamai, you're muted for some reason. You pressed them. That's it. Now you're unmuted.
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur uses the word pramada for inattention, which is commonly used in Sanskrit to denote intoxication, madness, insanity, negligence, and carelessness. For example, there is a well-known verse spoken by Maharaj Rishabh to his 100 sons. When a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activity. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body which, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, I think it is not befitting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activities of sense gratification by which he perpetually gets material bodies one after another. In this case, Marmata means mad. And in other example, Kaviraj Goswami writes, mistakes, illusions, cheating, defective perception do not occur in the sayings of the authoritative sages. In this verse, pramada means illusion, and in his purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, pramada refers to inattention or misunderstanding of reality. Herein, Srila Prabhupada shares the same usage as Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Thus, for the purpose of this book, just as ekadra, in our word for inattentiveness, parmata is our word for inattentiveness. The verbal root here is mad, which means mad, and the prefix pra amplifies the meaning of that pramada can be understood as utter madness. When a person is mad, he certainly has no control over his mind or senses, and so he cannot be attentive. Hence, madness and inattention are closely related and so share the same Sanskrit word usage. Conversely, when one is not mad, not deluded by sense gratification, then one is sober and attentive, not negligent in one's duty. With reference to the verse immediately above, we must admit that as conditioned souls, we, unlike authoritative sages, are subject to 4 defects. Thus, inattentiveness is inherent in us all, and that is the problem. With the rare exception, attentiveness in bhakti does not come naturally to a sadhaka. For that reason, he must make serious efforts to attain it. The main obstruction caused by inattentiveness, particularly inattentive chanting of the Mahamantra, is offense to Krishna's holy names. Pramada results in nama aparad.
Okay, perhaps we might want to pause there. If there's any questions or comments there. It's quite graphic, isn't it? From a Sanskrit perspective or from an absolute perspective, pramata, man.
Oh, Krishna.
Utter man. We're being inattentive.
Can I add a little bit, Prabhu?
Yes, please, Mavaji Ambavati. Yeah.
Sorry to disturb, but I was reading Krishna Karnamrita, and there are also saying it describes how Radharani has in madness, in anger, madness, and it has stages. That madness has different stages. I can't remember how many, but very nice description. But another point I want to say, the word mada, yeah, what it came. Mada, it came now in modern, a modern world for fashion. In different languages is mada, directly mada or mode. mode, different pronunciation, but actually it came from where? From madness, because fashion, it means madness. You have no sense, common sense, you just nonsense. So this is what I wanted to let you know,
Okay.
that this came from.
Thank you. And
from this.
interesting you brought up that example because of the resonance of Vrindavan, specifically the gopis or Radharani. Now, all these emotions, basically all the emotions which you see here in the material world, even some of the ones, say the negative ones, like the one being inattentive or mad, that you're going to see displayed in its perfectional form in the resonance of Vrindavan. So that, but it's not encouraging us to
Yes,
be.
yes, exactly.
For example, the gopis, they're so absorbed in the sound of Krishna's flute, which has entered their ears and stolen their mind. Sometimes they're churning water instead of butter. Supposed to churn butter, churning water in a pot, because they're completely, as Krishna's in their heart and mind. And the elders get quite worried about their daughters. They seem to become, they seem to be mad women. But another example is where they go into the courtyard to actually pick something from the courtyard, and they forget and they keep walking out the courtyard and into the fields. Just their mind's been stolen by this flute sound of Krishna. And from that flute sound, they remember his form, his pastimes, and his form, etc. So you're going to see that. It's described in the Nectar of Devotion, in other books describing the exalted love of the gopis. So that's the other side in the realm of perfection. But here we're looking at it from a different context, a different perspective, that we are distracted by the material energy, therefore we are inattentive. So nunam pramata kodate vikama. When a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he becomes mad after materialistic living. Yes, so this is good to keep in mind. Each time we're inattentive in japa, we can conclude, I'm a madman. Mad woman, I'm mad because I'm being inattentive. Yeah. Anyway, we're all mad because we're all conditioned souls and we're trying to be cured.
Yeah, he said that, didn't it?
Yeah, this madness means conditioned souls. So that's us. But at least, well, anyway, we won't go down there, but we can see that madness in the material world, people have to be locked away, isn't it? They have no control of their senses or their mind. Yeah.
We can be mad about Krishna. So
Yeah, that's the point. Just like the
Yeah.
residents of Vrindavan.
Yeah.
Let's be mad about Krishna, mad for Krishna. All right. Anybody else like to read? Kamadi Priyamavi, you like to read it? See, you have the book there in front of you. Very nice. Yeah, just
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Yes.
Krishna.
Isn't it good to see her?
Hare Krishna.
Nice to see you all as well. Nice to join as well.
Thank you. For
It's well known that Krishna and his name are one. There is no difference between two. What is the nature of a supreme absolute reality? Like all persons, Krishna likes to be addressed attentively. He doesn't like to be called on with a dismissive or inattentive attitude, but when we chant with a careless attitude, he is offended.
Wow.
We should add
Carry
what
on. Yeah.
We should add what offenses to Krishna's name are incurred not just from negligent chanting, but from a list of other transgressions. Padma Purana names 10. Inattentiveness is sometimes connected to the ninth and sometimes added as 11th, all-encompassing offense. It also includes not listening carefully to an exalted speaker. For example, prefacing a mantra with which he should initiate the prachetas, what Shiva said. Now I shall chant one mantra, which is not only transcendental, pure, and auspicious, but is the best prayer for anyone who is aspiring to attain the ultimate goal of life. When I chant this mantra, please hear it carefully and attentively. We may note how the word Shruyatam is translated as hear it carefully and attentively. Implicit in that instruction is a consequence of not following it. which Srila Prabhupada expounds in his purport. Lord Shiva advised the sons of a king to hear him attentively, for inattentive hearing is offensive. The conclusion is that just as it's an offense to the holy name to be inattentive while chanting Hare Krishna, it's equally offensive to be inattentive while hearing Srimad Bhagavatam or the person Bhagavata. After all, those two are both expansions of the holy name. Some devotees have said that chanting Krishna's name offensively is like beating Krishna with a stick. What a frightening picture that conjures. And yet the incident of Jagai and Madai beating Lord Nityananda is evidence of the assertion. The two cousins were offense personified, and Lord Nityananda is a presiding deity of a holy name, glorified with following words. I bow down to the Supreme Lord Nityananda Prabhu. He is the avenger of the highest joy to all, the bestower of holy name and a crest jewel of all Paramahamsa mendicants. A lesson to be learned from this incident is what offenses to the holy name to do personal harm to the Lord, and what it's not all. If not checked, inattentiveness becomes the root of other offenses, as well as a cause of persistent bad habits. Jagai and Madai's offensive conduct resulted in Vaishnava aparat, the results of which extend even into realm of Bhav. Thus, even through a devotee may make sankalpas with the aim of advancing in bhajana, if in so doing he commits offenses, the results he attains pale in comparison to his efforts. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami writes, if one is infested with the 10 offenses in the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, despite his endeavor to chant the holy name for many births, he will not get the love of Godhead, what is the ultimate goal of his chanting. Srila Prabhupada's translation of this shloka is very significant. The word endeavor indicates determination, sankalpas. A devotee may make repeated efforts to progress in Krishna consciousness, but the sprout of love of God will continue to evade him until, like Jagai and Madai, he stops his offensive ways and follows the path of pure devotees, the path of the Mahajanas. Another aspect of the above is that a lack of progress over many years may well cause a devotee to become discouraged and so even more negligent. And finally, the burden of offenses and the distraction caused by the bad habits what offenses bring makes sadhana all the more difficult. It's like running waist deep in water. In short, inattentive chanting of Krishna's holy names drains a sadhaka's inspiration, encumbers his effort, and compromises his success in sankalpas. Not a good formula for spiritual advancement.
Let's just pause there. You can continue reading after this, Mother, up to the next asterisk. But any reflections on that, what we read there? Something to keep in mind, that being attentive, just like we can experience it, isn't it, when we're speaking to someone and they're inattentive. We feel a bit blighted, isn't it? We may feel offended. You know, sometimes I'm giving class, I'm giving class and I see someone's not, they're just doing something else, they're not paying attention. I mean, often I don't say anything, but it definitely, I don't feel so inspired, you know, if I'm giving a class and someone's doing a crossword. Someone, it's different. It says, I mean, Jambavati often brings up I think it's a valid point that sometimes for some devotees, for them to be doing something in class sometimes help them to be attentive. So let's accept that. But apart from that, I myself, I think you may also experience it to one degree or another when you're speaking to someone or you're addressing someone and they're not paying attention. I remember one time I was in the Pujari department and I won't mention any names, but one lady, she was speaking to me and I was there, but I wasn't paying attention. I was cleaning the sink and I saw something else and she's speaking away to me and I'm doing this, I'm doing that, you know. Then eventually she got fed up. You know, got fed up and kind of stormed off, you know. Thought, oh yeah, I should have just been listening. So Krishna's a person. Yeah, Krishna's a person, and he describes here, he okay, if we're in a bad habit, we're coming from a inattentive, we're coming from a background which we're inattentive, but if we're not making any efforts, once we understand the importance of being attentive, then it's not very disgrace. It can be personal harm to the Lord. It's quite a statement, isn't it? That Lord who is completely transcendental and untouched by the material nature completely, or the holy name, the Lord takes issue with someone who is inattentive. And what does he do? Well, he doesn't punish the devotees. Well, he does punish. He just withholds his grace and he withholds his mercy. Why? Because the devotee is obviously not really wanting it. If one is perpetually inattentive. I mean, because the Maha Mantra itself, it's a call for help. It's a call for grace and help to be engaged in Lord's service. But if you're not paying attention, then you're not really calling for help. You're not really calling for grace. You're just mouthing a mantra. You're just mouthing something mechanically. But if you're not there, if you're not paying attention, then you're not going to get what the translation is. You're not going to get Krishna's grace. Or it may take many, many births. So many births means millions of births. Okay, it doesn't mean just 2 or 3. It means a long time. Anyway, I hope we're not frightening everyone here. That's the idea. Let's, tomorrow we can be really attentive in our japa. But any further comments or questions on this?
I was thinking, I see attentiveness like devotees who are giving classes, because they're giving classes, so they're like attentive in what they're speaking. And when others are asking questions, they're very attentively hearing the questions, so they can answer, Yeah. So I just see this, how attentive things are, especially when Prabhupada's class, and then you can reflect back on what did he say.
Yeah. So we can practice. So we practice being attentive in japa, but to assist our japa, we should practice being attentive in everything that we do, whether it's paying the tax bills, whatever it may be. But just to not be distracted, just to practice being attentive. Yeah. If someone's speaking to us, be attentive to what there's. I think that comes up a bit later actually as well. Yeah. We kind of pay attention. All right.
I see that managers as well. When you're speaking to them, they are so attentively listening to what you're saying, so they then reply.
Who's that? The first part I
like
missed?
Kind of managers.
Yeah.
Like in managerial positions, they're very attentive to what you're saying, so they can then reply accordingly.
Yeah. So the same with Krishna.
Yeah.
Krishna. All right, Mav, you can just finish reading up to the 4 asterisks. Mara Priya Mav.
Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur records a conversation between Haridas Thakur and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the glories of Krishna's name. Vanamacharya described how Lord Chaitanya always emphasized the importance of offenseless chanting. Haridasa said, "O Lord, to Sanatana Goswami here in Jagannath Puri and to Gopala Bhatta in South India, you taught that the holy name must be chanted attentively, what inattention in chanting is an offense, and what a devotee may carefully avoid all other offenses, yet still not experience the ecstasy of a pure name. Due to offense of inattentiveness, pramada, the chanter is obstructed in efforts to reach a stage of nishta, firm faith, and so growth of devotional kripa is stunted, divesting it of a potential to flower into Krishna Prem. With that final judgment from he who brought the holy names of Krishna to the world, let us recap what we have heard of the effects of inattentiveness. Because inattentive chanting is an offense to the holy name, it's a source of especially resilient bad habits. When artists resulting from past pious and sinful activity are relatively easy to eradicate, but when artists resulting from offenses to Krishna's names are more difficult to purify, much more. In addition to the breeding new anarthas, inattention also breeds further offenses. Inattention is a habit that pervades a devotee's attitude, causing him, for example, to wrongly respect demigods or be disrespectful to other scriptures. Hence, by negligent philosophy, a sadhaka is prone to commit other offenses. The cumulative effect of those new anarthas and aparadas is to constrain the devotee to the stages of anishtita bhajana kriya and to ban him from the stages of nishta and beyond. In other words, a devotee's sankalpas become ineffective. It's like walking up a down-moving escalator. The effects of inattentiveness are frightening. Under the influence of such an adverse habit, there is every chance that some devotees will fall away from a path of pure devotion, while those who don't are on a slow boat to Bhav.
Okay, thank you. So Maharaj also mentions like running in deep water, but this is an interesting example as well, like walking up a down moving escalator. Yeah, you're actually walking, but you're actually going backwards. Yeah. Here's another example I just remembered of. This is one devotee shared this with me. He was walking towards the temple and he suddenly realized that he forgot his beads in his bead bag. You know, he was thinking of this and thinking of that, and he left, and he realized that he stopped. Then he walked back about 10 minutes to where he came from. And as he got to the door, he realized that he didn't forget his bead bag. It was on his hand.
Oh, Krishna.
It was in his hand all the time. He was so kind of distracted by his mental thoughts that you get the picture. He was walking towards the temple. The bead bag was in his hand, and he thought he forgot his bead bag. And he walked back to where he came from and saw the bead bag in his hand. That's embarrassing. It's quite amazing of how inattentive we can be, isn't it? Sometimes. But any other further comments on this? Yeah. So this is from anyone can say, well, Marge has already said it. We have read this book, Harinam Chintamani. Remember we read that? And there it's highlighted the 10 offenses. So Maharaj is now quoting from the Harinam Chintamani by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Yeah. In his conversation with not his conversation, but highlighting Haridas Thakur's teachings. So that's what's definitely coming up next. Yeah. Any other further reflections on what we just read there?
Can I just add, I just was recently listening to, I was attending Bhuta Bhavana Prabhu class, and one devotee asked him a question, how we can make our chanting more attentive. And he was saying sometimes everyone needs a different way to concentrate. Somebody needs to read Bhagavatam before, somebody needs to do some maybe pranayam, breathing exercise, so he was saying everyone is like so different, so everyone have to find a way what helps them to be more attentive in chanting. Like for example, somebody might help to read pastime of Krishna, and then while they're chanting they kind of meditate as well, same time on it, and it's kind of it's very useful to know, like we just need to find a way how we can help our mind to be more attentive when we chant.
Very good point. And I'm sure, and as we continue chanting over the years, then we're developing different skills. Yeah, very good point you're bringing up. We can develop different skills that we use to help an otherwise inattentive mind. Yeah. And one of them Maharaj mentioned was to kind of create a sacred space for ourselves. That's also there as well to help us to be attentive. As I think I mentioned my experience in Mayapur recently. I was chanting in a temple room with another 2,000 devotees, and it was wonderful at first. After some time, I could see my japa wasn't of the same quality as it should be. So then I found a quieter place to chant. But yeah, devotees can do that as well. They can read before. I mean, I read a few minutes before my japa. I've been doing that lately, the last 6 months or so. I read a few verses before japa, and often also I chant the Shishastakam prayers before my japa. And I like to do that. And that helps me approach the holy name. So I think Satyananda Maharaj also speaks of this in his japa retreats, to prepare for the sacrifice of Nam Bhajan. Just like if you're attending a fire yagna, you're going to prepare yourself, yeah? You might dress up, whatever it may be, but you're going to prepare yourself. You may take a bottle of water. You may, you may have in your mind where you're going to sit. You may like that. You prepare for the yagna. So in the same way, we can prepare for our japa. And nice what Buddha Bhavana was saying, by doing something to help us steer our mind in the right direction. We have to almost coax it like a parent's coaxing a child with some sweets, kind of bring it on board, Yeah, thank you. Very good point. Anything else? Yes? We got, let's have a look. We have got no time left. It's 6:59. So perhaps let's just finish there on those 4 asterisks, and then next week we can begin. We're going to be talking about, just in the following section, we should look at the 3 kinds of inattentiveness and some recommended means to overcome them. So the apathy, laziness, and distraction. Yeah. So this is from Harinam Chintamani. Okay. So we're paused there for today. I hope today's reading was some inspiration, and I hope it will manifest in your japa tomorrow, or it's around today. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining us. All
Hare
glory.
His grace only Prabhu ki jai. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Prabhu. Thank you,
Vaishnavas.
Krishna.
Hare
Thank you.
Hare
I'll
Krishna.
end in 5 seconds. Chant Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare
Hare
Hare Ram
Ram. Hare Ram.
Hare Ram
Hare Hare.
Rama Hare